All right, there you go, Jean.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I am sitting close to my microphone today for this initial part because I know that several of you had trouble hearing me when I was back in my chair. So I won't move back there until we start the active part of the practice. And I do want to just continue with the reading that I started last week, which was about stress management for when you're stressed. Yes, anybody can relate to that, I'm sure. And we talked about there being 6 specific tools within the yoga toolbox, if you will, that are helpful for reducing stress. And the one that I talked about last week and we practiced a little bit last week was a breath practice, and that is one of our 6 tools. And just as a reminder, what we did was extended the exhalation. The one I want to deal with today is meditation. So it's a huge topic, but I'm just going to read about it very quickly. Yogic meditation triggers the relaxation response through your focus on an object of meditation. So what does that mean? As you repeatedly move your attention to your internal or neutral object of meditation and away from the external worries or concerns, you're signaling to your nervous system that you're safe. Your nervous system responds by switching to the rest and digest state. Options include both seated and reclined meditation. We are going to practice a specific meditation at the end of this class, and that will be seated. And your mental focus could be on the breath, which we often do at the beginning of class. It could be on a physical sensation. Often meditators focus on the touch of the breath at the nostrils and how that feels. It could be on a mantra or a sound, and that is what we will work with a little bit at the end of class. And it could be visual imagery. So any of these things, the breath, a physical sensation, a mantra, a visual image, any of these can be considered objects of meditation. And you focus on one of those. So that's, in a really brief little nutshell, what meditation is. And I'm going to just finish up by answering a question that often gets asked of me, and I'm sure many teachers. How often should I be practicing? So if you're going through a stressful period, which I think for many of this fills that definition, I suggest practicing at least a short stress management session for about 20 minutes every single day. So that could be a breath practice, that could be meditation, that could be some of the other practices that we'll get to in future weeks. Right now, the author herself is practicing 20 minutes of meditation and 20 minutes of legs up the wall pose every day. We'll get to that another week. What you practice for your short stress management sessions could be any of the relaxation practices you prefer or that work in your circumstances. And because, and I'll just add this, because exercise is very important for reducing stress as well, you should aim to do an active pose practice or some other kind of exercise like walking around 3 to 4 days a week. So that's her recommendation. If you can fit it in about 20 minutes every single day of a stress management practice, and then 3 to 4 days a week, some kind of active exercise, either yoga, walking, whatever else you do. And with that, I will ask you to come to your comfortable seated position. For most of us, that will be in a chair, but if you prefer to sit on the floor cross-legged, feel free to do that. And as we do sit here, I invite you to be supported by your chair back. Bring a sense of stillness to the body. And find that focus on the breath. Turning your busy, active mind away from outside external concerns, just for the next few cycles, drawing your attention to your breath. Please draw your hands now to your heart center. Gently press your palms together and slide the thumbs just a little bit up the sternum to create more length. And we'll begin with 3 ohms together. I hope you'll join me aloud, or you can repeat that sound silently to yourself. On an inhalation, fill without strain, exhaling. Om. Inhale, exhale, replace hands to lap. Allow your eyes to open. If you are in a chair, come forward to the front of your chair. If you're seated cross-legged on the floor, you can just remain there. And we'll just come into some simple movement to link the breath with our movements. Waiting for the breath. As the inhale comes in, lift your arms up overhead. And as you exhale, twist your body towards the right. Inhaling, lift. Let the breath be the leader as it comes in. Exhaling, add your movement to the left. And a few more times. Inhaling. Exhaling. By all means, let this be at your own pace, the pace of your own breath. The next time you come into your twist on the first side, pause there, both arms are released, one to your leg in the front, the other somewhere on the chair, and your torso is twisting from the base of the ribs, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. Pause here, breathe well. Keeping your torso, your shoulders in the twist in the same position, just turn your head over opposite shoulder and see how it might feel to dip your chin towards your armpit. Lift everything back up on the inhale, come back to center, and we'll do that on the second side. So twisting open now to your left. Pause for a breath or two. And keeping the ribs, the shoulders in the twist, simply turn your head over opposite shoulder. Your forward hand can be on either leg, whichever you prefer. And please dip your chin towards your armpit. And coming back up to upright, everything comes center. Join palms and send your palms together to your heart center. We're going to do one more warm-up before we come to stand. So two options here. Many of you will be remaining with your right leg bent, and you'll simply bring the opposite ankle over knee. If this bothers your hip, if this feels uncomfortable for your knee, another option would be to make that cross with the leg extended. So you choose what's right for you. And the knee is just gently descending towards the earth. Don't push it down. And we'll place both hands on the thigh, one under, the other over. We'll just do a little gentle lift and lowering. A little gentle lift and lowering. Warming up the hip joint, the muscles, the fascia that surround it. And coming to stillness. Bring those hands back behind you for a little support. Draw your shoulders back and arc your heart up towards the sky. Little bitty opening back bend. Make sure your breath is flowing smoothly. It's more important than anything. And come back to upright. Carefully lift that foot off. And we'll come to the other side. So you're placing either ankle over knee, or you're extending that leg and crossing in this way. And I'll demonstrate differently on this side for those of you who are doing it this way. One hand under, the other over, little lift and lowering, inhaling and exhaling. Finding your stillness in the pose, bring those hands back behind you, draw your shoulders back, lift, and pause here. A little arc in the front body. I'm going to come take a look to see if I can see any of you. And coming out of the pose, carefully uncross. Bring the soles of both feet back down to the earth. And we will come to stand. So just as we have in other classes, you're bringing the soles of your feet fairly close to the legs of the chair. You're hinging forward from your hips crease, keeping a long spine. And we'll do this with the breath. Arms can be either alongside the body, using them for momentum, or if you'd like to give yourself a little help with your hands, feel free to do that. But linking with the breath, of course, inhaling. And on the exhalation, come all the way up to stand. And join palms, release the hands back down to the heart center. And bring arms alongside the body, finding your mountain pose. I'm just going to move my chair so be more visible. Arms alongside the body for mountain pose. Breathing well, find that plumb line alignment. Shoulders in line with hips, knees, and ankles, so we're not here and we're not rounding forward. Back of the neck long, big toes even with each other. Breathing well as you find your stillness. And bring arms up overhead, please. Still need to move this back a little. Excuse my adjustments. Arms directly overhead, and let your feet be a little bit wider. We're going to come into some side tilts. So with feet wider than hips distance, toes directly forward, slide the left hand down the left leg as you come into a side tilt on one side. Inhale, breathe up. And side tilt, second side, sliding that hand along the outside of the leg. Exhaling on the side tilt. Nice and easy, back and forth. Inhaling to center. I'm keeping my head in neutral for this flow. And I recommend you do the same. We will turn our heads when we come to pause. And the next time you lift both arms up, take your left hand, encircle the opposite wrist and stretch up even longer. Get really long in the whole right side body and take that over into a held side tilt. Now turning your head to look down towards the floor. And inhale, come back up. Release that hold, and opposite side. Take your right hand, interlace around opposite wrist and stretch it up long. And bring that length over into your side tilt for a brief hold, turning head to look down towards the floor, or you can certainly keep your head in neutral. Inhaling, lift up, stretch both arms, all 10 fingers long, and release arms alongside the body. Let's step the feet together again. Actually not together, but back to a more standard hips distance. All 10 toes directly forward. We're going to move in and out of chair pose. So by all means, you can have a chair available, or maybe you're just standing a little bit away from the chair, lifting arms up overhead. Stretch, get long, and sit back in your imaginary chair as if this chair was actually behind me and I was going to sit down. Inhaling, lift, stretch, and exhaling, sit back. Inhaling to lift and stretch. Exhaling, sit back. Inhaling, lift and stretch. And last time, we'll pause for a few breaths here in chair pose. Your hips back, so it's not straight down. Hips are shifted back, safer for the knees that way. Hands together at the heart center. And just as when we were seated at the beginning of class, that little pressure of the thumbs reminds us to lift the heart. Pause for a breath or two here. Coming out at any time, let your body signal when that's right for you. And if you haven't already, coming all the way up to stand, mountain pose again. And we'll move through a little flow. So this may be beginning to be familiar. We'll do it together, a little half chair sun salutation. Hands together at the heart center. Inhaling, lift the arms up overhead. Exhaling, here we go, back to chair pose. Hands touching the sides of the chair. Lengthening the legs, lengthening the spine. And bending the knees. Sweeping the arms up. Exhaling, hands to heart. We'll do that one more time, inhaling to lift. Exhaling, chair pose. Inhaling, lengthen legs and spine. And chair pose again. Inhaling here. Exhaling, hands to heart. We're going to come into a chair dog. So I'm pretty sure for the last 2 weeks, we've been doing our adaptation of downward dog at the wall. We'll do it at the chair today. So please do make sure that your chair is nice and secure on a mat, because we're going to also add another pose where you'll need to be very secure. So you're going to step your feet back. You're about a leg's distance from your chair and your arms are long. Arms are long. Bend your knees a little bit so you can really lengthen your spine. Press your hands down onto the top of the chair to really firm up those arms. And now lengthen your legs. Bend your knees again. And lengthen the legs. Bend the knees and step one foot and the other forward, coming back to chair pose. Inhaling, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhaling, hands to heart. We'll add one more pose, which will be plank pose at the chair. And you want to be really careful here that, as I said, the chair is right on the mat, so it won't slip. So we're going to take a look quickly first. So we'll be back in our chair dog. And then we're going to bring our weight forward into a plank pose. So you can imagine, some of you have done plank or a push-up on the floor. It's like we're doing the top of a push-up angled at the chair. So let's do it together. Come on back first to your chair dog, finding that pike in the hips, and then gradually bringing the weight forward, finding that alignment so your shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles are more or less in one line. If this bothers your wrists, you can come to the wall and do it at the wall instead. Piking back into our chair dog. We'll go back and forth a few times. Inhaling, come forward to a nice long chair plank. And exhale, hinge. Inhale, come forward. And pause. So as long as feels appropriate for you, you could either be down on your heels, or for just a little bit more challenge, you could lift your heels up off the earth. Make sure you're not drooping. Strong arms, strong legs, engaged core. And bend the knees, step one foot and the other foot forward. Arms out, inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, hands to the heart center. Release arms alongside the body, pause in mountain pose. Breathe, notice what you're feeling. And release. We are going to come down onto the floor. So this is when you will want to have your blanket available for your knees. And you will use your chair, but not right away. So first coming down onto hands and knees. You can use the chair to help you get down. And we're coming into table pose. Palms directly under shoulders, knees under hips, and you're not collapsing or drooping. There's a little bit of core engagement. Please lengthen your right leg out long behind you and lift it up just for a breath. Bend the knee, replace it. And second side, extend your other leg out long behind you. Lift it up. Bend the knee and replace it to the floor. We'll add a little variation. So often, for those of you who've been in my class, we take a balance like this. We're going to switch our balance up today. So the balance will be with a bent leg, lifting that leg up behind you, flexing the foot, pause here, and either staying with both hands planted or taking a bent arm with the opposite arm. Bent knee, bent elbow. Breathe. And release, palm down, knee down. And let's bring the knees together before we come to the other side and just sway the hips from side to side. So it looks like this, knee, hip swing one side and then to the other. It should feel good. Just a little release. And second side, bent knee. Both palms can be planted or perhaps lifting opposite arm, bent elbow. Pause for a breath or two. You can let it be playful. You can come in and out of the pose. And if you're not a kneeler, sorry for not mentioning this on the first side, you can do the same thing from standing. Everybody else remain, of course, kneeling. So here it is standing, same pose. Everybody coming out of your bent knee, bent arm balance, and just come to rest for a moment. If you're someone who likes child's pose, you could take child's pose with knees wide. Let your arms extend long. If you're not somebody whose knees are happy with child's pose, not everyone is, or not everyone's knees are, you can come to stand on your shins. Let's take a few breaths. And we'll come down for one more sequence with which we will use the chair. So you want to have your chair pretty much in front of you. Again, very secure on your mat, so it won't slip. And you're going to bring, so everybody bring right forearm down onto the chair. Extend the opposite leg out to the side. So the toes are pointed and the leg is out. I don't know if you can see my foot in your image, but the sole of my foot is pressing down. You could also flex. Place your hand on your hip. And inhale, open up. Elbow back. And twist, turn towards the chair seat. Inhaling, lifting, shoulder back. Exhaling towards the seat. Inhaling, lift. Let's pause here with the arm lifted if you so choose. It's a very open, expansive posture. Really helps with that expansiveness of breath. Be here for a few moments. If anyone prefers to ground the hand on the earth, that would also be an option. You don't have to use the chair. Release. Bring the hand down, bring the knee back to center, and we'll turn to the other side. So you can simply switch to the other side. You don't have to turn around as I am. I'm just doing this so I'm more visible. And now, opposite forearm comes to the chair. For me, it's right forearm, left leg out to the side, hand on hip. Just make sure it's your second side if I've gotten my sides mixed up. Inhaling, lift, shoulder back. Exhaling, turn towards the seat. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling, recover, release. Inhaling, open up that shape. And here, extending the arm up towards the sky. And again, this could be done with palm on the floor instead. So you choose. Big, expansive breaths. Remember, our breath practices are one of the stress management tools. Release. Bring the hand down. Bring the knee back in, and you can use your chair to bring yourself up to stand. So a nice way to transition to stand is to simply bring that foot forward, find yourself in a lunge, tuck back toes, step forward, and come to stand. Find your mountain pose again. You can put your blanket aside for now. Let's have the back of the chair towards our bodies, and we'll come into a short standing sequence. So just a few moments again in mountain pose. Breathing well. Notice if you can see yourself in gallery view, you might be able to see whether your shoulders are in balance or not. And let's bring the left leg forward and step the right leg back. So those back toes are just about parallel with the back edge of the mat. And we'll move in and out of triangle pose. So please bring your hands to your hips. We're going to do a little side tilt over towards the chair. Inhale back up. Exhaling, little side tilt. Inhaling to recover. This third time, tilting towards the chair, extend your arm long and stretch even longer. Can you reach those left fingertips closer to whatever wall is near you? And we'll come into triangle. Release that hand either to the back of the chair, to the seat of the chair, maybe alongside the leg, and lift opposite arm up towards the sky. Triangle pose. Gaze can be up for the classical pose or keep your head in neutral. Both legs are straight in triangle pose. And come all the way back up to upright. Pause for a breath. Hips come back to a place of balance. And keeping that balance, hands on hips, bending into the forward knee. And come back up. Exhaling, bend. Inhaling, recover. Exhaling, bend. Here's a change. Bring your forearm down onto your chair. Opposite arm alongside the ear, side angle pose. Keep the knee bent and come to warrior two. Side angle. Warrior two. And third time, we'll pause and side angle. Typically, I offer the option of coming down to the thigh, but let's keep it a little bit more supportive today. Forearm resting on the back of the chair. Stretch from back heel to forward fingertips. And come on up. Turn all 10 toes forward and pause in this very wide-legged mountain pose. And we'll come to the other side. So for our standing sequence, now your right foot is forward, your left foot is back. And for these are both positions in which our hips are facing away from the chair back. So we're not facing the chair. I didn't mention that before. Placing hands on hips. Both legs remain straight. For triangle pose, little side tilt towards the chair. Inhale up. A little side tilt here. Inhaling. Exhaling. Let's take that into even more of a stretch, reaching through the entire length of the arm and replacing forearm to the back of the chair. Hand can come to the seat or to the inside of the leg. Opposite arm lifts. Triangle pose. Feel free to gaze up towards the lifted fingertips. Again, pausing here. I'll take a quick look at what's going on here. Thank you for those of you who have left your videos on. It really helps me to see you. And releasing from your straight leg triangle pose, coming back to upright, placing hands on hips. And we'll come into our little side angle variation flow. Bending into the forward knee. Inhaling, lengthen. Exhaling now. Inhaling. Exhaling, bend. Place forearm on the back of your chair and arm alongside ear. Keep that front knee bent. You're really building a lot of strength here. Arms in a T position. Side angle pose. Come on back up. And last time, side angle pose. Here's your hold. Breathing well. Long line from back heel out through fingertips. Again, the classical pose is gazing up towards inner elbow. Feel free to do that or remain with head in neutral. Coming all the way back up. Turn all 10 toes forward. And let's step one foot and the other back to mountain pose, standing tall. We're going to take a balance sequence. So for balance sequences, I like to have the chair next to me in case I need to reach down for stability. But you don't need to use it if you don't want to use it. Just have it there in case. Standing up tall. Let's all be on the left side of our chairs. And you're going to be moving your outside leg, which will be your left leg. So from mountain pose, the foundation of our balance poses, lift that outside knee up for crane pose. We're placing hands on hips, or one hand can be on the chair, and just doing some knee circles. And reversing those. Coming to stillness. And as we come to stillness, we're in crane pose. So that looks like, that looks like this from the side. Your foot can either be up in the air or it could be down on the earth for more stability. Hands at the heart center. And we'll simply transition, bringing that foot back behind. Foot can either be lifted or on the floor. And just one more breath here. Lifting arms, or if you have the chair, one hand can be on the chair. Let it be a little bit playful. It's okay to fall out of the pose. It's the way the body learns. And release. Bring the foot down. Standing tall in mountain pose again. We're going to do that on the other side, and then we'll come back for one more little variation. So coming over to your second side, standing up nice and tall. Mountain pose on the second side. Hands on hips, or maybe one hand is on the chair. Lifting that knee and just taking some knee circles. Reversing those. Notice what you're feeling on that hand that's resting on the hip. Coming to stillness for crane pose. Remember, the foot can certainly be on the floor. You can hold with one hand on the chair or bring both to your heart center. And gradually transitioning so the knee comes down to the earth, foot comes back behind you, flex into that foot, and lift arms up towards the sky, or maybe one hand is on the chair. Remember, the foot can certainly be on the earth. No has tos in yoga. And release, bring arms down, bring the foot back down to the earth, and we'll come back to the first side. So again, this is one I'll demonstrate from the side. You're going to be moving your, looking for my belt, you're going to be moving, here it is, your outside leg, if you're facing this way, is coming back behind you. And there are options. So some of you will be perfectly comfortable taking hold of the back foot with your hand. Some of you, that's why we have our straps, will want to use the strap, in which case you just loop it around your foot. Keep that loop pretty tight and bring the leg back behind you. Pause here. Maybe experiment with lifting the opposite arm. This is a little variation on dancer pose. Breathe. Feel free to hold. Knee down towards the earth. Make sure it's not winging out to the side. And release. Coming over to the second side for our held dancer pose. You know by now whether you'll be using the strap, or some of you might make the direct connection. You can also just remain as we did initially with the foot on the ground. So choose what's best for you. Making that direct connection, hand to foot, or using your strap. I know it might take a few minutes to arrange the strap, so take your time, no need to rush. Once you get there, perhaps lifting opposite arm for a little balance in dancer pose. And release, bring the arm down, replace the foot to the earth. Oh, let's take one more stretch in our chair dog. That'll probably feel really nice after that fairly long balance sequence. Step your feet back, let your hips reach back, and breathe. Feel free to work, always options with bent knees or straight legs. Try both, see which feels best in your body. Today I'm liking the deep knee bend. I feel it more in my spine, in my upper back. And stepping yourself forward, we are going to transition to come down onto our knees one more time on our way down to our backs. But we'll do one more thing on our knees. Again, non-kneeling people, you can do this from standing. So this will be either a plank pose using your chair, which would look something like this. This could be your plank pose. You could also lift into a fuller plank. I'm just demonstrating. We'll do it all together in a moment. For those of you who feel comfortable bringing both hands to the mat, you can come into a half plank, or if it feels right for you, lift both knees for a full plank. So a couple of different variations. Choose what you'd like to, either forearms to the chair or hands coming directly to the floor. And we'll take a brief hold first. Let's everybody do a modified plank. Hips a little bit forward, your knees are grounded, your spine is long. And come back to rest for a moment, either kneeling on shins or back on your heels. We'll do one more plank variation, and then we'll come down onto our backs. So again, either forearms on the seat of the chair, or for some of you who are okay with putting palms down, you can also use your fists. This is easier on the wrists. Lifting knees up off the ground or remain in your half plank. Just a few breaths here. Long line, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, back of the neck long, and release if you haven't already. We are going to come down onto our backs, but as you know, I don't come onto my back because of some issues I have with vertigo, in case you were wondering. But let me demonstrate what we'll be doing. So we're standing up. Imagine the wall is the floor. And you're simply going to draw one knee in, extend leg long, arms come back behind, bend and replace. Opposite side, one knee in, arms come back behind, leg lengthens, and replace. And then I can't do it with both legs, but you'll be able to do that when you come down to the floor. So please do come down onto your back. And I'll step a little closer to the microphone so hopefully everyone can hear me well. Bend your knees, please. And draw your right thigh in towards your chest, foot up off the earth. Knee is still bent. You can continue to hold onto your thigh and stretch your leg long. For those of you who feel comfortable doing so, stretch that leg long and reach the arms back behind you as well. And bend the knee, draw in. We'll do that a few times on the same side. Lengthen the leg, hold on or reach arms back behind you. And exhaling, draw in. Let's do it one more time. Lengthen that leg up towards the sky, reach the arms back behind you if you so choose, or continue to hold. And let's pause here with that leg lengthened, little rotations in the ankle twirls. First in one direction, and then in the other. Please bend the knee. Replace sole of the foot to the floor. And pause. Notice the difference in the two sides of the body. Do you notice any differences? Perhaps you don't. Let's take the second side. Lifting left foot up off the floor, drawing in. Hands behind thigh. And lengthen that leg. Either hold or reach arms back behind you. And bend the knee again. Replace the arms. Inhale, lengthen that same leg, arms back. And bend the knee. Last time, inhaling, lengthen the leg. Reach arms back behind or hold behind the thigh. And take your ankle twirls, please. First in one direction. And then in the other direction. And replacing the sole of the foot back down to the earth. Both knees are now bent, both feet on the floor. We'll do the same thing with both legs. Lifting both feet up off the floor, interlacing behind the thighs. Stretch both legs up long and reach your arms back behind you, or continue to hold, especially if you have any low back issues. I'd recommend continuing to hold. And pause. It's like you're creating the shape of a capital L. Legs reaching long, arms either holding or reaching back. Few breaths here. And everyone, please bend the knees. Replace soles of the feet to the earth and float those arms back down alongside the body, soles of the feet on the floor. We're going to end with a little bridge flow. So stabilize the hips, equal weight on both sides. Knees bent, soles of the feet pressing. Inhale, just lift the arms up and back behind you towards the floor. Exhaling, release the arms back down. We're going to add the hips. Inhaling, lift arms, lift hips up off the earth. Exhaling, float arms and hips back down. And take that a few more times at your own pace. This should be at your breath's pace. Inhaling and exhaling. The next time you come to inhale and lift the hips up off the earth, replace just the arms, keep the hips elevated for bridge pose. Anyone who wants to interlace behind the back, feel free to do that, or simply remain with the arms alongside the body, palms facing up if that works for you, and your shoulders. You can think about scooching one shoulder and then the other a little more securely towards the midline. Keeping the heart elevated, the hips elevated. And if you haven't already, releasing, come back down out of bridge pose. And take any last pose that you would like to, that feels right in your body. Some people like Apanasana. Many of you know that at this point. You can lift your feet up off the earth and simply circle your knees around a little bit. You could do little knee sways from side to side. You choose whatever your body is asking for in this moment. Just take a few moments to experience whatever pose or sequence you've chosen. And finishing up your sequence, coming to stillness, stretching your legs out long on the mat. It's nice to put a rolled up blanket under the knees, or sometimes people put a couple of layers under their head. But let the legs relax. So we want them to not be active. That's the reason we lengthen the legs here. They could be resting on the seat of a chair or lengthened out in front of you. We'll take a brief moment, a few moments here in our resting posture, and we'll finish with a meditation. So resting here, bringing your attention to your body, letting it be relaxed. No more need to contract muscles or stretch or balance. This floor is supporting you. Let your breath be at a natural rhythm, and as we rest here, the mind remains quietly focused for the next few moments. Bring a little bit of movement into your body again. Wiggling your fingers, your toes, ankles, and wrists. Bending your knees, rolling over to your side. Rest for a moment on your side body. And gradually make your way back up to seated. We will end with a brief meditation. So you can sit on the floor in a cross-legged position in kind of a standard meditation position. It's nice to have something under your hips if you're doing that. So you might be here, or you might come back to sit in your chair. And again, I'll remain close so that you can hear me, and I'll start to give you a little instruction or a little background on this particular meditation. As I mentioned at the beginning, meditation can have different objects of focus. It could be the breath, it could be a visual image, or it could be a mantra, and that's what we're using today. So the mantra we'll be using is So Hum. It is said that So Hum is the natural sound of the breath, and that simply by breathing, everyone is unconsciously reciting this mantra throughout the day. But consciously bringing So Hum to awareness with the mind makes the inaudible vibration of this mantra audible, so that it may be used as a resting place during meditation. So here's what you're doing. You're sitting in your meditation position. You want to be comfortable, but the spine is lengthened. Relaxing your effort, just allow your thoughts to come and go. You might find that your mind is very restless, or maybe you're feeling a little more stillness after our physical yoga practice. Don't try to change anything. Now, during the inhalation, let the sound So resonate in the mind. During the exhalation, Hear the sound hum. So hum. Each sound lasts through the length of the entire breath. They're not audible, you're saying them to yourself. One thing to be watchful for, don't make the mistake of altering your breathing in order to accommodate the pace of the two sounds. Rather, let the breath flow at its natural pace and hear the two sounds of the mantra as if they're an accompaniment for the next few moments. Inhaling so, exhaling hum. Saying those words quietly to yourself. Please now draw your hands together at your heart center. One last time, gently pressing thumbs in towards each other and a little bit more upward. And I would like to close our session today by chanting Om together one time. Breathing in. Om. Please take one more full but unforced inhalation, filling with the energy and peace of yoga. Exhaling, namaste. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to come forward and unmute in case anyone has any questions or comments. I will say that meditation might make you feel really nice in the moment. It's not a magic bullet. It takes a lot of practice for it to affect the feelings that you might have during the day. So do what you can to make it regular. 5 minutes is fine. Doesn't have to be 20 as the blog poster was doing. Sorry, I lost you all. Let me unmute. Okay, so if anyone has any comments, hello, I'm here. You should be unmuted again.
Hey, Jane, I have a question. This is Joel.
Everyone hold just for a sec, Joel.
So this time, instead of seating in the chair for the initial breaths, I sat on the floor. But my hands, when I put it down, my hands are on the floor. They're not extended, so my hands are hitting the floor. I was just wondering, do I need to sit higher on a higher?
I'm sorry, Joel. So what are you saying? So when you were seated at the beginning, your hands were
cross-legged. When we put our hands down to to grab and things like that, they're hitting the floor.
Yeah. Well, you can either bend your. You mean when we were here?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just bend your elbows. That's fine. They don't have to be stick straight.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I liked it a lot today, a little bit different. Thank you.
Marcia?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Have a
Thank
good
you
so
weekend.
much, Jean. Take care. Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe.
Yes,
Have a
stay
good
safe.
weekend.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Happy
Have
Mother's
a
Day.
great weekend. Take care.
Yes.
Happy
Take
Mother's Day.
care.
Happy Mother's
Oh,
Day,
yes,
everybody.
Happy Mother's Day.
To everybody. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Thank
Mother's Day.
you.
Happy Mother's Day.